as a co-host, just in case.
Yes, yes, sure.
There you go, Rasvilas Prabhu. You know exactly what to do.
Okay, I will help. I will do my best to assist.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to His Commander, Charles, Divine Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. We welcome each and every one of you to the platform, to the Krishna Africa platform for today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today, we're going to be treating Srimad Bhagavatam class, Canto 2, Chapter 4. We're going to be specifically reading text number 15. And we have our dear mother, our guide and inspirator, our grace, Mother Vrajalila, to be speaking with us. So, Mother, thank you very much for making it here today. So, if you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen and then we'll start officially.
Thank you so much, Salika Prabhu. It's always like such a joy for me to come and be here with my brothers and sisters. Haribol.
So I'll put the verse on the screen and we can touch that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's Vilas Prabhu. You are co-host.
All right, Brother, I've seen it. Thank you.
So here we have Mother, we can start.
Okay, Prabhu. Haribol. Okay. So today we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, text number 15. Very famous and wonderful and beautiful verse, one of the most beautiful verses in Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So text 15. Yat Kirtanam Yats. Okay. Bhagavatam 2, 4, text 15. Yat Kirtanam Yat Smaranam Yat Ikshanam Yat Vandanam Yat Chakravanam Yat Arhanam Lokasya Satyo Vidhunoti Kalmasham Tasmai Subhadra Shravase Namo Namaha. Translation. Yat whose Kirtanam glorification, Yat whose Smaranam remembrance, Yat whose Ikshanam audience, Yat whose Vandanam prayers, Yat whose whose Shravanam hearing about, Yat whose Arhanam worshiping, Lokashya of all people, Sajyaha forthwith, Vidhunati specifically cleanses, Kalmasam effects of sins, Tasmai unto him, Subhadra all auspicious, Shravase one who is heard, Namaha my due obeisances, Namaha again and again. Srila Prabhupada's translation. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna, about whom glorification, remembrance, audience, prayers, hearing, and worship can at once cleanse the effects of all sins of the performer. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The sublime form of religious performances to free oneself from all reactions of sins is suggested herein by the greatest authority, Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Kirtanam, or glorifying the Lord, can be performed in many ways, such as remembering, visiting temples to see the deity, offering prayers in front of the Lord, and hearing recitations of glorification of the Lord mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. Kirtanam can be performed both by singing the glories of the Lord in accompaniment with melodious music and by recitation of scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. The devotees need not be disappointed in the physical absence of the Lord, though they may think of not being associated with him. The devotional process of chanting, hearing, remembering, either all or some of them, or even one of them, can give us the desired result of associating with the Lord by discharging the transcendental loving service of the Lord in the above manner. Even the very sound of the holy name of Lord Krishna or Rama can at once surcharge the atmosphere spiritually. We must know definitely that the Lord is present wherever such pure transcendental service is performed. And as the performer of offenseless kirtanam has positive association with the Lord. Similarly, remembrance and prayers also can give us the desired result if they are properly done under expert guidance. One should not concoct forms of devotional service. One may worship the form of the Lord in a temple, or one may impersonally offer the Lord devotional prayers in a mosque or a church. One is sure to get free from the reactions of sins, providing one is very careful about not committing sins willingly in expectation of getting free from the reactions by worshiping in the temple or by offering prayers in the church. This mentality of committing sins willfully on the strength of devotional service is called Namno Baladya Shahi Papa Budhi, and it is the greatest offense in the discharge of devotional service. Hearing, therefore, is essential in order to keep oneself strictly on guard against such pitfalls of sin. And in order to give special stress to the healing process, to the hearing process, and in order to give special stress to the hearing process, the Goswami invokes all auspicious fortune in this matter. Thank you, Shalika Prabhu. Om Agyana Timirandasya Naganatvalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pachatyadi Shatarine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shatatmane Shri Gaura Karna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hari Hari. Thank you, Prabhu. So once again, we're the translation again for this verse is, let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the all auspicious Sri Krishna, about whom glorification, remembrance, audience, prayers, hearing, and worship can at once cleanse the heart, cleanse the effects of sins of the performer. So Salika Prabhu, I know that you're going back and forth, so I think Rasavala said he will, do whatever is needed when you have to go. This verse is just acknowledging.
Yes, just acknowledging.
Just acknowledging my support system. So beautiful. Thank you. So this verse, I was listening to a devotee from he was from, I think, Suriname, one of these places in South America. And he was sharing this, how important this verse is. And one of the things that was really gave me a lot of joy is to hear how he put this verse in an acronym. So he said, G is glorification, R is remembrance, A is audience, K is P is prayer, H is hearing, and then of course there's worship. And that's the whole verse. So he was just synchronizing the verse into this acronym, and he was saying, so when we put the acronyms together, it says graph. So the graph for worshiping Krishna are this process that's being given in this verse. I just thought that was very kind of creative and kind of interesting for him to just take the verse like that in order to help his audience to just understand how important it is, this particular verse is. So this verse talks to us about glorification. There's so many aspects of how somebody could share, a devotee could share their realizations, or what Srila Shukadeva Goswami, Srila Sutta Goswami is helping us to understand. This particular verse helps us to know that kirtanam, as we hear this word, oftentimes when we hear kirtanam, we think, well, at least some devotees may think, not everyone will think like this. Some devotees may think that means maybe doing Harinam, or, somebody that's very expert on the harmonium and they're playing the harmonium, calling Krishna's names, that's kirtanam. Or sometimes devotees might think just the singing and repetition of Krishna's name is kirtanam. But here we're learning from this verse that kirtanam is all of these different processes that we can use in our lives to glorify Krishna, to remember Krishna. And so the process as given to us by Srila Prabhupada in our sampradaya, or perhaps maybe just to make it more, how could I say, more pertinent, more available to us, is what we have been given by the acharyas, and how we're being guided in order to understand this word kirtanam. So kirtanam can, as Prabhupada is saying, it can be performed in many different ways. And remembering is one of those ways that we have seen so many devotees have become successful in their relationship with the Lord simply by remembering the Lord. One such personality, of course, there's so many personalities that can exemplify. However, this personality that we hear about so often is Prahlad Maharaj. And how Prahlad Maharaj, just by him remembering Krishna, he never forgot Krishna in his life, despite the fact that he was going through so many different kinds of struggles. And we all know the pastime, this assembly of devotees they're very, how can I say, they're very sastric, they're august in their understanding of scriptures. And so I won't go through the pastime. However, what's important about this pastime is that Prahlad was challenged in his life by his own father. However, that didn't stop him from remembering the Lord. And so we see in our lives, oftentimes we are challenged in so many different ways. There's so many ways that especially if we absorb ourselves in material energy, then naturally we will become challenged. And so when somebody is challenged, the tendency is to kind of put Krishna a little bit on the side, so that they can think. So some people can think they're going to try to solve the problem. However, in bhakti, we learn quite the opposite. And I'm so very grateful for Srila Prabhupada, grateful for my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti-tirtha Maharaj, and just very grateful for this particular verse, because what this verse teaches us is when there is struggles in our lives, or when we face obstacles, or when there are things that are going on that just seems like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Then Prabhupada tells us the way to get through this is simply to remember Krishna. If we simply remember Krishna, like Prahlad, if we simply remember Prahlad, we will remember how Prahlad overcame the challenges and the obstacles that he faced. And by that remembrance alone can help us in our journey, in this journey that we're endeavoring to be on in order to have relationship with Krishna. So how do we do this? How do we like, as Prabhupada says, there's remembrance, and then he gives the other example of audience. We can have ikshanam, he calls it. When we see the deity, we should see and look how wonderful the deities are, and how to see Krishna everywhere. That's another way that we can understand this audience. This is there in the Sanskrit word. This ikshanam is to be able to really connect with the deity form of the Lord, really. And again, anyone that's in the process of Krishna consciousness, the first thing that somebody does when they come to Krishna consciousness is they chant Hare Krishna and take darshan of the deities. And so this is such an important aspect of this glorification of the Lord. This morning I saw on the African chat, or the African, it's one of those places where devotees are able to share their information, and they shared their different experiences. And what I saw this video. Someone shared a video of these brahmanas worshiping the deity form of the Lord. And I was thinking, wow, it was a very elaborate way of worship. And it made me reflect on what it must have been like in other yugas, when people worship the Lord with like gold paraphernalia, and the worship was much, much, much more elaborate because of that mood of glorifying the Lord. So this verse is really helping us to understand the mood of the devotees. What is the mood? How do we develop this mood? So as we shared, one of the ways to develop the mood is to hear about those persons that actually practice these different processes, or these different ways of how to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So deity worship, again, we have the example of Prithu Maharaj, and how he used all of his royal possessions in order to offer them in pure devotion to the Lord. So when we read that pastime of Prithu Maharaj, we get a little bit of an understanding of what it's like to give everything that we have in the service of the Lord, no matter what it is, no matter how small it is, how little it might be. The idea or the understanding for every devotee is to have that mood, is to develop that mood of having this audience with the Lord, being present with the Lord. And so sometimes we can think, well, I don't have facilities. I know in America it's like that. I can't really go to the temple. So temple might be very far away. So how can I have this audience with the Lord? How can I have this presence? And of course, Prabhupada refers to this in the purport. And he says, well, sometimes we think that, I'm not really seeing the Lord. I don't even have the qualifications to see the Lord. So the fact that there may not be a temple, the fact that I can't see the deities, I'm even within my own self, I don't think I have a qualification to see the Lord. But Prabhupada explains in the purport, he says that it's not necessary that we physically see the Lord. I think that part of the verse, if I remember correctly, it says, we should not be, let me just look at the verse again, because I have the book right here. Because that's an important point in the verse. It says we should not be disappointed in the physical absence of the Lord, though they may think of not being associated with him. And then he gives the process again. Prabhupada says, just by the process of chanting here and remembering some of them or one of them, that's going to give us the desired result. So even if we have in our home a picture, Salika, I kind of think that, okay, there, somehow I know that you're doing 20 services at the same time, but your camera is moving in some different ways. So yeah, even if you have a picture in your home, even by having a picture in your home, and you remember Krishna through that picture in your home, then that can give the same result as if you're seeing Krishna directly. How do we understand that? Well, Krishna explains to us that he is everywhere and he's in everything, and that actually by remembering Krishna, that's Krishna. By hearing about Krishna, that's Krishna. By chanting about Krishna, that's Krishna. Every aspect of anything that we do in our life is actually related to Krishna in some way or another. Even when we're engaged in Krishna's external energy, that is also Krishna. Everything is coming from Krishna. So this process of remembering Krishna, of glorifying Krishna, we can glorify Krishna in our homes simply by having a picture of the personality of Godhead, having a picture of our spiritual master. So we don't need to experience loss from not having a temple. And so many of the devotees now, and especially all over the world, but I see it in Africa a lot, devotees are doing so many different programs.
Hi. How are you, baby? All
Hare
right.
Krishna, Hare Chakra, Hare Chakra Prabhu. So nice to hear your voice.
I'm sorry, Mata.
No worries.
Customer service.
Yes, we totally understand. Hare Chakra is one of those devotees in America that has a business, a glorious business of making flower bouquets for people. And so he connects with people through flowers, which is the way that he makes an offering to Krishna by giving these flowers to people that he's speaking to on his job. And that's a very, such a glorious way to glorify the Lord, because the flowers are offered to the Lord, and then those flowers are then given to people that offer in turn some money, some donation for those flowers. And so that's a wonderful business for a devotee to have. Prabhupada explains as we go on in this verse, remembering, glorifying the audience, the deities, prayers, which is one of my favorite ways of glorifying the Lord. We all are attracted to different ways that we might glorify the Lord. Prabhupada explains even if it's only one of these ways, only one. So one of my favorite is through studying the prayers of great devotees. Prayers for me are very, they're very beautiful when you hear the prayers of the pure devotees of the Lord. And secondly, they give me an entrance into the mood of how much those devotees have love for Krishna, how much they're having desires to be with Krishna, to actually be with Krishna in terms of having his audience. And so one of those verses that I just have a lot of affection for is a verse that I've often heard His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, many devotees chant this verse. However, I appreciate so much when I used to hear Bhakti Charu Maharaj chant this verse. because it would open something in my own heart. And this is a verse when the gopis are feeling separation from Krishna. And so here, this is prayers, this is in prayers, Vandanam, remembrance and prayers. So this verse goes something like this: Tavakatam ritam, tapta jivanam, kavibhir iditam, kalmashapaham, shravana mangalam, Srimadatatam, bhuvigrinanti, ye burida janaha. So this verse, Bhakti Charumaraj, if you ever get a chance to hear him chant this verse, it does something in the heart, for sure. And this verse says, the nectar of your words and the description of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in the material world. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities. This is the nectar of Krishna's words. And just hearing about him, hearing about the activities, the things that he does, even to hear about Krishna opens our heart. The verse continues to say that these narrations transmitted by learned sages eradicates one's sinful reaction. So here we heard in the verse about sinful activities, right? And what, there's an emphasis here, Prabhupada is talking about, that if we do these processes, they can free us from the reactions of sinful activities. So our life is not meant to focus on sinful activities. Our life is meant to focus on glorification of the Lord. When we focus on glorification of the Lord, automatically we will start becoming free from sinful activities. Definitely our sinful proclivities or those desires for sinful activities will become minimized more and more and more. And for those that may not know or may not be fully aware, Prabhupada gives us 4 sinful activities, or actually they're in the scriptures for us to avoid. In Bhakti, there's things that we avoid, and there's beautiful things that we do. So what we do is we glorify the Lord, and what we avoid in terms of sinful activities is we avoid illicit sex outside of marriage, we avoid intoxication, we avoid gambling, and we avoid meat eating, right? We don't commit violence, we don't gamble, which is really harming ourselves. We try to be clean, which is, I believe, intoxication. We try to be internally clean, and we don't, outside of marriage, engage in sexual activities. So these are the basics of sinful activities. However, Prabhupada is helping us to remember, if we glorify the Lord, then very easily Krishna will remove those sinful desires from our hearts. And so this verse continues that these narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. So these narrations, what narrations? The narrations of Krishna's activities and Krishna's pastimes. And certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. So the devotees in Ghana, Nigeria, and so many different of the countries in Africa, they, especially I see in Ghana, there is so much emphasis on book distribution. And I see His Holiness Kavi Chandra Maharaj is visiting Ghana right now. And I saw that he just did a program with in the university. And I see that that he was very well received in the university. And the devotees that are coordinating and organizing such programs, these devotees are to be glorified, because Krishna is pleased when we glorify his devotees. And so in order to glorify Krishna, if we glorify the devotees, then that is a way of glorifying Krishna. So I'm just really awed and grateful to the devotees in Ghana for the way that they coordinate and organize book distribution in all of the different, cities everywhere. It's more than I've seen, more than, in the past. It's so much more than the past. There's so many books available, and the devotees are seemingly so enthused, so eager, so excited to go out and distribute the books. Of course, I always hear the encouragement that it can be done more, it can be done more. I hear that. However, those that are engaged in the service, it's just so beautiful, because by giving someone a book, then that person gets an opportunity to glorify Krishna, to hear about the glorification of Krishna. Or as I see with Varaha Prabhu, he's so engaged in distributing prasadam. There's so much prasadam that gets distributed in his project. And so by someone, of course, having prasadam is not different from Krishna. So that person is glorifying Krishna, right? By honoring that prasadam. And that prasadam is helping that person to become free from sinful activities, to change their hearts. So in the purport of this verse from the Gopis, Prabhupada says that this verse that Bhakti Charamaj chants so beautifully, this verse that when we hear it from realized souls, it can actually change our hearts. This same verse was recited by Prataparuja Maharaj, by the King Prataparuja. He wasn't a Maharaj, he was a king. He was a king. And he recited this verse to Lord Chaitanya during the Rath Yatra festival. And so while the Lord was resting in the garden, Prataparuja came and massaged his legs and lotus feet. So Prataparuja was having this amazing association with the Supreme Lord, with Lord Chaitanya. And then he recited this verse to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya was just in so much ecstasy. And he embraced Prataparuja with so much love when he heard this verse. So this verse is, it's a verse that many devotees chant. And it's a verse that gives us an understanding of glorifying the Lord, what it means to glorify the Lord, and who do we look to when we want to hear glorification of the Lord. So certainly the gopis, they're perfect, they're exemplary in how they glorify the Lord. Now Prabhupada says something here in this section of the verse, where he said that we shouldn't make up ways to glorify the Lord. And unfortunately, we're in Kali Yuga, and people find all different kinds of ways that they want to glorify Krishna, glorify the Lord, or glorify whomever that they might relate to as God. There's so many different ways that people are doing that in these days. And even in our own society of devotees, you can see sometimes, people concoct different ways that they want to glorify the Lord. But Prabhupada says, no, don't do that. Stay away from that. That's another stay away, right? A stay away is the 4 regulative principles for freedom. Another stay away is don't concoct any glorification of the Lord. Don't concoct any ways to your way, our way, that we might think. Simply, it's important for us to take shelter of those devotees that are in our scriptures, and those devotees that are exemplary, those realized souls, those pure devotees that can help us how to glorify the Lord. Another personality that I really, really appreciate, there's so many beautiful prayers of devotees from the scriptures. Another personality that, is Gajendra. And I think we all know that story of Gajendra, the elephant, and how, he was caught in this situation that was very dangerous. He could, was going to lose his life, right, with the crocodile. However, Gajendra prayed And one of those prayers that Gajendra offered to the personality of Godhead is, I have that prayer, that, again, another prayer that's just so beautiful. It says, my Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the cores of their hearts. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are attached to mental concoction, things that I want to make up in terms of how to glorify the Lord. I may be attached to my home. I may be attached to my relatives, my friends, money, servants, and assistants. Gajendra is praying like that, sharing. These are some attachments he might have, he had. However, he's explaining you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's praying uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the Supreme Controller. I therefore offer my respectful obeisance unto you. And so when we hear prayers, just like Shukadeva Goswami, these are prayers that he's offering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this part of the Bhagavatam. And Sutta Goswami also offered prayers before he speaks anything to the sages of to the sages. So whenever we hear prayer, we hear a glorification of the Lord. Here Gajendra is glorifying the Lord. In the purport, Prabhupada says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood only by the great souls, the liberated souls. And then he gives this, there's this verse in this purport that from the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, and he explains of all the yogis, what's O yoginam api sarvesham, of all the yogis, one who abides with me with faith, great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is intimately united with me. So again, these prayers, they always direct us to another aspect of how we can understand the prayers. In this case, Prabhupada is in the purport is referring us to the Bhagavad Gita, and this is what's been explained in this process of creation. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all auspicious Lord Shri Krishna. Because if we offer glorification, then automatically we will get cleansed from the effects of sins. This is the main point of this verse. And so another Prabhupada speaks again. Okay. Yeah, there's a verse. There's a verse. The kings of elephant, Gajendra said, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Person Vasudeva because of this material body acts due to the presence of spirit, and he is therefore the root cause of everyone. He is worshipable for such exalted persons as Brahma and Shiva, and he has entered the heart of every living being. Let me meditate upon him. Such a beautiful, beautiful verse of glorification from Gajendra, the elephant. And of course, we know Sutta Goswami in the first, we read this some time ago, in the first canto. I'm not sure who gave this verse from this class, from this verse. However, in the first canto, in the 8th chapter, there's a verse from Sutta Goswami. And this is in the 44th verse. Sutta Goswami said, the Lord does hearing the prayers of Kunta Devi, composed in choice words for his glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was as enchanting as his mystic power. So we know Kunta Devi, she prayed to the Lord. She has a series of verses of prayers that she offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how was that received, right? So when we're giving our heart to Krishna in prayers, but then we receive from Krishna, right? So what did she receive from Krishna? She received a smile. And that smile, Prabhupada describes, that smile is, in the translation is being explained, was as enchanting as Krishna's mystic power. And we know Krishna is the he is the most of the mystics, right? He's the greatest of all mystics. And so in the purport, Prabhupada says the conditioned souls who are engaged in trying to lord it over material world are also enchanted by his mystic powers. But his devotees are enchanted in a different way by the glories of the Lord, and his merciful blessings are upon them. So this Prabhupada helps us to understand that people are enamored by mysticism all over the world, all over the world. However, devotees of the Lord, they simply want to glorify the Lord. They simply want to speak about the sweetness of the Lord. There's a verse that says, Krishna is sweeter than sweet, right? That's another sweet verse to sing. So these verses help us to understand why glorification of the Lord is so important, and to understand this process of kirtanam. Kirtanam includes glorification. It includes remembering. It includes serving the lotus feet of the Lord. It includes deity worship. It includes praying. It includes serving Krishna. It includes surrendering to Krishna. And here, of course, Prabhupada is simply referring to a few of the process. Another point that I thought was important in this verse is how, of course, we shouldn't concoct. One may worship the form of the Lord in a temple, or one may impersonally offer the Lord's devotional service in a mosque or church. Now, because we have so many devotees that come from Christian backgrounds, we may question that. Why is Prabhupada say, what does that mean? Because we know Prabhupada also says, and I don't have that quote, but Prabhupada also says that maybe Ganga Prasad knows that quote about how, or any of the Sastric devotees on the call. I know Ganga Prasad is and he has his camera on, so I can see him. The Prabhupada says that even this aspect of praying to the Lord is done in any theology, no matter whether it's a Christian, a Muslim, everyone offers prayers to the Lord. And here where it says personal, Prabhupada is referring to one may worship the form, or one may impersonally offer the Lord devotional prayers in a mosque or church. So I remember as a young girl, my mom was very involved with the church, and she used to, insist that we go to the church. Yeah, this is the part where Prabhupada says one may worship the form of the Lord in a temple, or one may impersonally offer the Lord devotional prayers in a mosque or church. So when I was going to church very regularly as a young girl, I remember always asking questions, about the prayers that we were saying, and I was like curious. Well, but who are these prayers being? Who are we giving these prayers to? Right? Who are we saying these prayers to? And no one could really explain that. There's an explanation in terms of Jesus, but then there's also an understanding that Jesus isn't God. Jesus is the Son of God. So I was always confused about that. Well, who is this God? And it wasn't until I became a devotee that I learned that God is a person, and he has activities, and he does, all different kinds of pastimes, unlimited pastimes. He expands himself in so many different ways, and each one of those expansions has a purpose. All of this I learned when I became a devotee. And so I was thinking, so really when we hear this statement of Srila Prabhupada in the purport, it's not to distract us or disturb us. It's just simply to be factual that unless people are in their tradition, for example, in Christianity, there are people that do have understanding about the personal aspect of God. Actually, there are. We may not hear so much about that, but if we read the verses from the Essene scriptures, there are some people that when they go deep into Christianity, they do understand that God is a person. Actually, I think in the Old Testament, there is some explanation However, that has been somewhat lost in, religion is meant for peace, not war. Okay, that's a beautiful verse. So the point is, when Prabhupada makes the statement, he's simply stating that in bhakti, we get to understand Krishna's activities personally. We get to appreciate that Krishna as a person is engaged in all kinds of different activities, and we can share those activities. Like we can share the pastime of Gajendra, and how at the last moment when he felt so hopeless, Krishna just came, right? And killed that crocodile. We can share like these intimate pastimes about the Lord. And in many other traditions, perhaps some of the practitioners may not have some of this very intimate understanding about the Lord. So this is the mood of how Srila Prabhupada is speaking in this verse. Okay, Islam is also Vaishnavism. There may be a level of Islam. However, in Kali Yuga right now, much of Islam may not focus so much on some of those tenets of Vaishnavism. The practitioners we're speaking about, even some of the practitioners of bhakti, unfortunately, it may not focus on the actual essence of what Vaishnavism is all about. So that's a point, and that's a point of debate. That's a point of definitely for discussion and conversations. And then the last point that Prabhupada makes here, which we're going to close on, is this mentality of committing sins willfully on the strength of devotional service. Willfully. So again, that happens in all tradition. People tend to not be authentic. They tend to not be transparent. They tend to do things that they say one thing and they do something else. Bhaktitirtha Maharaj always explains that there are many traditions where people don't walk their talk. He used that simple language. We don't walk our talk. We might know things in the scripture and we know it theoretically. We might know it like a parrot. We can recite it. However, when it comes to the practice, oftentimes people might have some challenges and some difficulties. Okay, Leela, Sherry, thank you for being here. Thank you. So this is the point that, as best as we can in our human evolving, we do our best and we pray for guidance to not commit sinful activities while we're engaging in the process of devotional service. First, we got to know what sinful activities are. Then we got to understand this point that that's one of the greatest offense. When we know what sinful activities are, yet due to the mind, the senses, the pushes, we may still engage in sinful activities. And that is something that we need to pray again for guidance to help us, because human beings are subjected to their senses. And even when one has knowledge, the senses may still pull and push a person. So that's an important point. Prabhupada wants us to know that. We need to be aware of it, and we need to be aware that perhaps on our own, we might not be able to stop these activities or calm our minds or whatever it takes for us to really implement this point. However, just by hearing, by being aware, by hearing about this, it will give us the impetus to want to have guidance, to want to understand, how can I not be engaged in sinful activities while I'm trying to engage in devotional service? Because it is an offense. And that offense is taking us away from Krishna. It's not taking us to Krishna. So this is something that as we grow in our devotional life, as we grow in our commitment, as we grow in our responsibility, then certainly this is something that we will be guided to implement in our lives. And this comes simply by hearing. That's the last point, is just by hearing. The value of hearing is, we cannot, there's no words that it can explain what it means. I think there's a verse here from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 3, 9, 11. And it says, "Oh my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process, the bona fide process of hearing. And thus their hearts become cleansed. And you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in a particular eternal form of transcendence in which they can always think of you." So that's a verse from the third canto. And that's a conversation that's going on in terms of understanding the importance of hearing. And just in closing, I want to share how grateful I am to the devotees that gave me this verse, because all of these verses, when we hear them, they are really to help the person that is going to speak about it, the verse. So for me, whenever I hear these, and whenever I get a verse from the African Yatra, I know it's for my purification. I totally get an awareness that, okay, Krishna, please, this verse is coming to me. It's a gift you're sending to me. Please help me so that I can receive this gift. And please help me to learn the lessons from this gift. So there's many lessons in this gift that has been sent from this verse. And so what I would like to share with you is how I received this gift. And I received this gift with gratitude, because I am grateful that even though I'm not physically seeing the Lord, I'm not physically seeing the Lord, even though I'm sad about not being associated with him, I am grateful that I can associate with the Lord by engaging in the transcendental loving service of chanting and hearing and remembering, which came through this verse. This verse was the perfect gift for me to remember this and to glorify the Lord for this and to be grateful to the Lord that I can receive this gift today from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I can really internalize this gift and see, my dear Lord, I really appreciate hearing prayers from the devotees, and that helps me so much. And is there another aspect of how I can enter into glorifying you? And another aspect that came to me today from just being with all of you is this aspect of remembering the Lord. Just remembering Krishna and how beautiful and wonderful his pastimes are, and just remembering how sweet Krishna is. And that comes, of course, again from the hearing process. So thank you so very much. I am so very grateful. I'm
Hare
grateful.
Krishna.
Hari Hari.
Thank you so much,
Salita.
Mother. Thank you so much, Mother Vrajalila, for this beautiful class. And I'm sure that not just only me, but all of the devotees on this platform will attest to the fact that this is, as usual, a very beautiful, practical, and life-changing experience lectures, because the beauty of Bhagavatam class is that when one speaks in Bhagavatam and you quote the previous acharyas, you reference practical life experience, and the practical experience of what is going on, what I see. And you touch all of these areas in your lecture. Thank you very much, Mother, for sharing with us. We're very grateful. And I have a question, but then before going forward, because I'm hosting, I will ask for devotees, it's quick Q&A section now. So anyone has a question or comment, please kindly use the hand emoji to raise your hand to ask your question, or directly raise your hand and then we'll call you to ask your question.
Actually, there may, if you don't have questions, please share your realizations, share your reflections. That is so very important in our exchanges with each other. This is a loving exchange, so it doesn't have to be questions. I see Kusha though, Kusha Prabhu.
Yeah, King Kush. of Africa.
That's what Hare
Smartly.
Krishna, Madam Humble Obeisances. My question is, once I listened to proper lecture, he was saying the best form of prayer is our activities reflecting the will of God. So how can someone who is not a devotee or someone who doesn't know how to pray and pray through the actions of their daily lives?
My dear Kusha Prabhu, I would like to try to repeat your question.
The question is, we know we people kneel down or we chant with chanting bead or we fast and actually we say we are doing prayer. Such prayers, and we also pray through our actions without really saying a word or praying. Can our activities be a prayer to God?
Okay, so when we kneel down and we pray, are those prayers, as are you saying, are those prayers, as a question, are those prayers authentic when we do that?
Those prayers is authentic, is different form of prayer, like praying. We have problem, we have sickness, we have needs. But also, I was thinking the most elevated prayer is through our activities, without even saying a word. Like when the Bible says, do not pray like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. For God who knows your heart, knows your need. Just pray, just do a prayer of thanksgiving. That's his glorification. So when people live their lives like righteous life, that also can be a form of prayer. Not only when we open our mouth to say something.
Yes, absolutely. Prayer is a heart connection with the Lord. And that's the example of Gajendra, right? Gajendra was in prayer. He was in prayer to the Lord. And he was in danger. And he really was praying to the Lord to help him. At the same time, his prayer was in glorification of the Lord. So he was praying, and he has a heart understanding. He has a heart connection, and yet he was praying because he was in danger and he needed some help. So in most theology, most theology or most practitioners, when someone prays, if someone has a heart connection, it's okay. Let me, like, sometimes I do facilitate a lot of groups, and there's a group where people might have been on drugs, or they might have been doing some activity that they're really trying to get away from, and they may not know, or they may just, their consciousness might just not be on that level of wanting to say anything to God, or or call God by a name or anything like that. However, in their hearts, they are connected to like a higher power, right? They may say like that, my higher power, and they have that connection. And because Krishna is everywhere, Krishna is in everything, Krishna is in everybody's heart, Krishna hears that, of course, if they're sincere in, let's say, wanting to give up some habit that is not serving them, that's killing them. They're aware the habit is killing them, and that's the same thing, right? In our tradition, Prabhupada gives us 4 basic things that kills us, right? If we engage in those principles, we spiritually die if we do those things. So then the way to get to stop those things is to connect, in prayer with Krishna. And it doesn't mean we have to say words. It means in our hearts, we're like, Krishna, please help me with this. We might just say our prayers like that, because it's a heart connection. It's a heart connection with the Lord. It's not just what we say with our words. And like you said, it's action. Yeah, the practical aspect of making that heart connection with however we call God. If we call God higher power, I'm making a connection because I want to be free from some habit that's just not helping me, then I have to act on it. I got to do something practically to stop it, right? To not do it. And so, yes, absolutely. Everything, everything that we do requires some effort. That's the pastime of Yashoda and Krishna, right? Mother Yashoda, Krishna, there was always that effort that was there with the rope, so there always has to be effort. We got to do something. Our philosophy is not just, here we hear, we pray, we do these things, and then there's some actions that we do need to do to change. Yeah, because it's our philosophy is for transformation. Transformation only comes through action, with guidance. Okay, I see Rasvilas Prabhu. I hope that was okay, Kusha Prabhu. Was
Yes,
that
Mother.
okay?
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Thank
Okay.
Okay, Rasa Vilas, please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Vrajalila Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you once again for the inspirational lectures today. My question has got to do with an aspect of the presentation where you said, we read in the report of Srila Prabhupada that one should not concoct any other means of praising the Supreme Lord. I was listening with keen attention if in your delivery you could mention some instances, but I didn't hear anything like that. So I would love you to kindly give us some instances when a devotee or an individual could be said to have concocted a means of praising the Supreme Lord. Like instances where as soon as one does that, he should know that what I did is against the instructions of Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. So we can cite some instances or maybe with scriptural references if you can read actions of people that have done something which be termed as having concocted their own way of praising the Supreme. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rasa Vilas Prabhu. I knew that I would get this question. And I thought, okay, Vrajalila, you try to research some things about prayer, and you heard that about this concocting, and there are many, different ways that we can speak about concocting. However, I really want to involve some of our senior devotees on the call. So I'm going to ask, well, I see there's Hare Chakra, there's Govinda. I want to get them to share what it means to them about concocting. Varaha Prabhu, yeah, I think Ganga Prasad is not here anymore. Or any of the ladies. I just like to get some input of what does it mean to you when Rasvilas Prabhu asked us about concocting. Govinda? Salika? Salika is an international.
Yeah, I think Salika Prabhu is speaking on the other meeting.
Yeah,
Shima Prabhu, please, are you available?
Varaha Prabhu?
Engagement
Krishna,
simultaneously.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I don't know if you're hearing me. I'm driving.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for the wonderful sharing. What is example of concoction in devotional practice? I think that reminds me of the number 6 offense against the holy name. That means we should not interpret, we should not give our own interpretation to the chanting of the holy name. So there we can easily concoct when we want to give our own interpretation to the chanting of the holy name. That is where one way that concoction comes. So people will say, well, you can chant the holy name and then you can, dream of some lottery number. That is concoction. So many interpretations we give just to suit our own. Like we had sometimes somebody was trying to offer fish to Krishna, saying that, well, anyway, Krishna said we should offer him whatever we eat, whatever we do, so I can also offer him fish. So this is concoction. Yeah, because this is a wrong understanding. Yes, Krishna said whatever you do, whatever you offer should be an offering to him. That does not mean you should offer, you know, meat or fish or something like that, which is not recommended either by the scriptures or by the acharyas. So these are different ways that concoctions come. That we can think of so many ways that people try to concoct some ways to serve Krishna. I'm not in the best frame of mind because I'm driving, but I think those two examples can serve for now. Maybe later on, I can come back. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Srimad Vara Prabhu, for your contribution.
How about you, Salika Prabhu, since you're on the screen right now? What are some ways that we concoct, or people might concoct? Maybe not devoted so much.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so many examples that comes to mind, but one is a good example of concussion is that I've seen that in my practical day-to-day devotional practice, what most often happens in the temple is that sometimes we hear some principles, not knowing the scriptural basis behind them, and will consider them to be the absolute truth. And a good example of that is that Guru Dev said, Srila Prabhupada said, we do a whole lot of in that region, and there's so many examples of such statements. Prabhupada said, and I'll give one practical example. When we do Ratha Yatra, for an example, we break coconut in front of the deities. And then in the early days, what we see is that everybody scramble and pick up the coconut and eat. And it was considered to be the standard. But after several years in devotional service, and they came to realize that those coconut offered to Ganesh and broken in front of Jagannath are not to be eaten. So because there was no understanding, we never took time to find out why. Just like when you're giving the lecture, you gave a very beautiful example that when the prayers have been done while you're still young, going to the Christian churches, you wanted to understand the basis behind the prayers that have been made. So, but in this case, we don't go to find out what is the basis for what we do. So we just feel, okay, we just go about it. Same thing when we do fire sacrifice, like that, we just bump on those things. So these are concoctions because we didn't know the basis behind them. We just do them based on the fact that we add or we see somebody doing it. So that is concoction. But the devotee needs to look into the scripture or ask authority, why is the basis of these activities before getting involved or engaging in them? Then it's free from being concocted.
Thank you. Thank you, Salika Prabhu. Anyone else would like to share their understanding of concoction from our scriptures? Yes?
Vrajalila, I think just by the answer that have been given by His Grace Srimad Vara and Salika Prabhu, I just reflected on yesterday's lectures after we played some tape by His Grace Sahadev Prabhu played as a tape for one of the groups. And then in the course of discussion, the questions were asked, and then he answered one of the questions. That was like, one time Prabhupada was giving lectures, and they were reading about the Lila of Ajamil. And then the devotee was reading the translation, said, Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan 3 times. And Prabhupada said, no. Are you reading from your mind or are you reading from the scriptures? He chanted Narayan only once. Why are you saying thrice? It means he's concocting something. So I think this example just came to mind. I just want to share. So we can classify that as concoction as well. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rasvilas Prabhu. Yeah, one that's very prominent is how people sometimes misunderstand and also concoct their own understanding about Krishna and his 16,108 wives. Generally, you know, when you hear sometimes people that don't have any knowledge of our scriptures, or they may not really understand who Krishna is, they will make him an ordinary person. And they will concoct some understanding of the scriptures based on that he's, you know, this ordinary person that engage in this activities, and some people may even be very offensive in how they speak about, Krishna's activities. But here we are understanding from the Vaishnava perspective that Krishna's activities are all to be glorified. And these activities are coming from the Lord, who is beyond even any understanding that we can have. We cannot really understand Krishna, which is why we need guidance, which is why we need help. So if we listen sometimes to people that don't really have knowledge from a bona fide source, they don't have knowledge from the parampara, they can concoct many different ways of understanding our scriptures, which is why Prabhupada was very vigilant. This is why he gave us like Bhagavad Gita as it is, so we can hear Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide source. Because if we read Bhagavad Gita from other sources, there can be many different interpretations, and people can really suffer, from how these concoctions impact their lives. It can really be, very, very, very destructive for their spiritual life, for their growth, for moving forward. So this is why this emphasis is here. Concocting is really a no-no. It's a real no-no. Don't concoct. Repeat. Prabhupada always said, repeat as you've heard. I mean, I know some devotees that just give lectures, but I just repeat. They've written their whole lecture out and they just read it. And it's just straight from Prabhupada's books. Nothing, they don't even say anything, their own realization. They just read it straight. That's it. Because that protects them from concocting anything, right? So, because usually when we speak from our own realization, the tendency is we may speak from our material awareness also. And that could sometimes not directly explain what Prabhupada is wanting us to understand, because we bring our own perception into the mix of things. So yeah, this is my understanding of why Prabhupada mentions this, which is one of the things I write, that I am grateful for the courage to change my life by hearing from Parampara. That requires courage to do that, because we can be independent and just, which, I'm sure like I have done in the past. However, upon meeting my spiritual master, just the courage to keep hearing. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mother. I think Sadaka Prabhu is engaged. I have another question. If there is no,
you can go ahead, Rasavila. I'm with you.
Okay.
In soul and spirit.
I thought maybe anyone has lifted their hands. Can I go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, Mother, my next question will be on the fact that Prabhupada was saying in the report that one shouldn't be disturbed to think that maybe the Supreme Lord is not before him or has not manifested physically before him. So therefore, serving the Lord shouldn't be a worry. That's if the person maybe is not before any deity. But wherever one finds himself, he should think that the Lord is everywhere and within everything. How significant should we consider this fact, based on the fact that when we look at guru-discipleship relationship, it is said that serving the guru in Vani is very important. Why? Because it is no more often that you have association with your guru in Vapu. So how should a devotee conduct himself in instances where you may not have the chance to often go to the temple to have association with devotees, bowing down before the motives of the Lord? How important is the fact that we can serve the Lordship in Vani rather than Vapu? How significant is this too? And which one should we consider very important, relating it to Guru relationship, as in serving the Guru in Vani, very important than serving in Vapu? How should we balance ourselves in this area? Hare Krishna. I don't know if my question is clear.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks
Hare
again.
Krishna.
Yeah. You're gifting me with these questions that's making me really have to go internal and connect with whatever small realizations I may have and whatever I've heard from the years of trying to practice devotional service. So thank you very much for your gift. It's both are important. It's important to desire, to want to see the Lord, but however, we shouldn't become depressed, or we shouldn't become discouraged if we're not personally seeing the Lord, right? Because the Lord is present everywhere, as you said, and the Lord can be present in our home simply by our chanting, simply by our hearing, simply by our remembering. That's the purport of this verse, that Krishna, because Krishna is everywhere, we can certainly experience Krishna's presence in everything that we do, no matter what that might be. We can experience Krishna's presence. And in terms of connecting with the spiritual master, well, I can speak from my own personal realization of the spiritual master physically not being there. My spiritual master, my revered spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, his physical presence may not be there. However, I'm able to serve him in separation, as you said, right? Bani and Vapu, I'm able to serve. Doing this class is one of the ways that I serve my spiritual master, by sharing whatever small realizations I may have and whatever I've heard from him and other acharyas, previous acharyas. So Krishna never leave us in a way where we can't experience him. That's the point Prabhupada is making. There's always a way that we can experience Krishna. And that is based on our effort also and our desire. So in connecting with the spiritual master, that connection is also in the heart. That's a heart connection. And some devotees never met Srila Prabhupada. And we hear that. They've never met Srila Prabhupada. Yet they've done so many amazing services for Srila Prabhupada. Some devotees only heard about Srila Prabhupada. Some devotees might have only met him once. And that was enough to stimulate their heart to want to embrace this process of bhakti. So yeah, in every situation, Krishna is there. Krishna is waiting for us, always just waiting for us, because the Lord is in the heart, right? Super soul is there in the heart, waiting for us to say, okay, I'm done with this thing. I'm done with whatever that might be. I'm done with whatever it might be, our distractions. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. And we're saying that every day. Every day we say, I'm done with something, right? Every day. And then we take more shelter of the devotees, more shelter of the devotees who are also gurus. Gurus are also, they're also students in their way. In how they're connecting with Krishna. So we're always evolving. Everyone is always evolving. We're always, wanting to know more and have more of that deep, loving connection with the Lord. And that comes, as this verse is saying, just by glorifying Krishna. Just by glorifying Krishna. We will get that. It's guaranteed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mother, for that beautiful answer. Lots of viewers, I hope that answers your question perfectly.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I actually asked the question because when I joined the movement newly, I was so much obsessed that I spent just a few months and I was within myself. I felt like I have to get some picture deities. And the nature of my job was such that I was a project supervisor. So I was always traveling wherever my company had projects. And I spent most of my time sleeping in hotels. And when I'm going, I normally take along my Guru Dev's picture frame, Kavchana Swami Maharaj. Then I take that of Goranitai. And then in the hotel, I wake up very early in the morning, try to do some little arati in my own way, singing some glorifications. But when I'm leaving the hotel to the site, I have to pack the deities and put them in my bag because hotel attendant might come, dressing my bed and all this stuff. So whilst I'm at work, I'll be thinking, why am I even keeping the deities in my bag? By this time they're suffocating or something. So I get bothered when I'm away. Now it got to a time like, no, then I wouldn't be taking them traveling along because it's like I stress them, keeping them in my bag whilst I'm on buses traveling and leaving them in the hotel. And at the same time, when I leave them home and I travel, I'm still thinking, I'm not home to offer them any flowers, food, and water, and all those things. I get so disbalanced. So I was just looking at this thing. If we can actually consider the idea of we not having issues that, okay, I don't have deities, I don't have any physical thing when I'm washing, but the Lord is everywhere and within everything. I can still go ahead with my devotional service, asking actions and everything. I think that was the reason why I asked the question, and the clarification is very good. Thank you. Vrajalila.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Rasavilas Prabhu. You know, I'm just going to share this quick story of Jamuna Devi. Jamuna is she's one of the first devotees of Srila Prabhupada, and she offered so much service for Srila Prabhupada's mission. And when she was leaving, there was a point when she got very ill, and she was in Mumbai. She was at the Bhaktivedanta Hospital, and it was Gaurapanim. And normally in her life, her deities, she would always do something very grand, you know, because she was a cook, of course, and she would do big festivals for the deities. Of course, she couldn't do that because she was ill. She hadn't traveled with her deities, and she couldn't move from the bed. So she gathered a few devotees, and she taught them how to do manasa seva, how to do seva for the deities in the mind. And they cooked 108 preparations together in the mind for the Lord. And they delivered those preparations to the Lord. So all of that was done in the mind. Now, okay, so I personally may not be on the level to do that, to just, you know, offer 108 preps and cook them and all the spices and everything, you know. She just did all that in the mind. I personally may not be on that level, but I do know somebody that is, Jamuna. And so I could learn from her, and I could take baby steps. Maybe I can have the picture of my lordships, and I can offer a fruit or a flower in my mind, right? I can offer just maybe something little, just take a baby step and do that. And Krishna will be pleased. Krishna will be pleased. Offer a tulsi leaf in our mind to the Lord, because it's not about our bodies ultimately. Yeah, ultimately.
Thank you very much, Mother Vrajalila. Thank you for that life experience and practical devotional and practice shared by Rasavilas Prabhu. Yeah, we all find ourselves in some of these circumstances, and we're wondering how to balance up. And I like your meditative mood, because it shows that you're constantly thinking about the Lord in the heart, and which is actually meditation in itself, which is very good. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Srimad Prabhuji, can you unmute?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Actually, listening to Rasavilas Prabhu, I think I can now understand why he asked the first question about not concocting, and he wanted an example. So I think now I can say that if you're traveling and you're using hotel rooms, everything, and you have your deities and you do puja to them, or you have mobile kind of altar, that is not concoction. That is recommended. That is the first thing that should be taught, or that is taught to devotees. Of course, that's what we do here. Our first seminar in Guru-disciple relationship is called Practicing Krishna Consciousness at Home, which means that your Krishna consciousness should not be just in the temple. It should not be only when you can come to the temple. So you have to learn how, actually, the whole way of life now is built around your devotion to Krishna. So it should not just be only when you're in the temple. So please don't think that is concoction. It is not. And you should do it. You should carry your deities with you and continue, taking care of them in the hotel room. That helps you a lot to transform the energy of wherever you may be visiting. And also you feel that the Lord is with you, and you become more conscious of, your devotional activities when you have your
deity pictures with you and your guru's pictures. So this is not concoction. Don't think I can, maybe now I should stop it, maybe I should do it. It is recommended. That is the way we practice Krishna consciousness without necessarily having to be in the temple every day. No, everybody can serve Krishna through his own little mobile temple, wherever he is. So I hope that is clear. It's not concoction. Please don't stop. Don't stop. It's far better. It's recommended, and it is better way of remembering Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you very much, Srimad Prabhu, for that contribution.
Yes.
Actually, one other thing I'd like to share with you, Vrajalila Prabhu, is that one thing you could do also is you could have a small deity arrangement. Since they are pictures you're carrying, they're not even deities. You can have some kind of a small bag or some comfortable place where, so when you get to the hotel, every hotel has a lock. What I do is that, there's this security lock that they have in every standard hotel, and then you just set your all deities there, do their worship there, and close it and lock. Nobody interferes. That's what I do. And then that becomes my altar for the period, because nobody has access to that place. The cleaners don't have access to interrupt. So that becomes my closet. So I open the place, I prepare my deities there, do the offering. When I'm going out, I close that, lock it with the numbers. They can access it, so they won't disturb the deities. So I think it's another way of doing it. So and then I have a bag that I particularly please all of the deities. That's my personal life experience.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that tips.
Hare Krishna.
Vaishnava Sangha. This is what it means, loving relationships. We talk about Krishna, glorify him, and share ways of how we can serve him. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So are there any other devotees with realizations, comments, questions, contributions?
I think Govinda Prabhu, you're welcome. We miss your association.
Okay,
Thank you
Dr.
for having
Azan.
me back once again.
Dr. Azan, please, can you unmute?
Hare Krishna. Mother, please accept my humble respect obeisances. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glory to you. I came really late to the class today, and I was having this same problem, which Rasa Vera Prabhu asked, and my own is a little bit slightly different, but I'll put it in this way. When I was in Barcelona, I was having my altar, but I didn't actually have the deities. I have the pictures of my guru and other deities, Nrsimha Dev and Srila Prabhupada. So when I was moving here, I cannot carry the frames because it would be too much, so I folded them. But where I am now, even if I have to chant, it's more like I have to lock the door, because I'll have issues if I have to be carrying the beads and so on. So in this case, and I have the pictures of my deities and the other ones, which is in crystal forms and everything. And sometimes I'm thinking the same thing, that since I've locked them, I feel like I'm not feeling comfortable of that. So in this case, I cannot have the altar here, and even I cannot bring the pictures out. So how do I deal with this situation? Do I have to do the same thing in the mind till I
think you should move.
Because every day I'm mixing my altar, every single day. Every single day I mix every single day. So what sometimes what I do is that I was having this picture of Damodara, the little Krsna, which always in my hall I used to sit in front of him to chant. So most of the time I memorize him, when I'm chanting. But I wish I can but actually, it was not in my altar, so I was not offering any flower or anything. But my altar is always, I'm mixing my altar, always. But I cannot, so.
That's what Krishna sees, Bhakta Hassan. Krishna sees your intention. And your intention is you really want to serve him. Somehow he's put you in a situation so that you can hanker more. You can just think about him more. You can desire more for you to have a situation where you can serve him the way that you would like to serve him. However, in the meantime, as you're saying, you know, how do you transform that situation where you're not able to physically do that right now to a situation where it's as joyful that you're not doing it? You see, a lot of times we go to guilt. Right away, we go to guilt. We go to shame. Oh, I'm not able to do this. You feel shame about yourself. You know, that doesn't really help us to connect deeper with Krishna. It just keeps us in material consciousness. So how do we take this situation you're in? Oh, I'm not able right now to connect, to do the service the way I'd like to. Krishna, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful I have this situation because it's only going to let me think about you more. It's only going to let me want to serve you in that way more. So thank you, my dear Lord, that you put me in this situation. Please don't let me forget how to serve you, how to keep endeavoring to serve you the way I would like to. Because, you know, Krishna is always fulfilling our innermost desires. And if it's to serve him, Krishna will arrange. So be careful, because wherever you are that you're not able to serve him, Krishna might take that away. So if it's a job that you depend on, or if it's a situation that you need to be in, that you think you need to be in, because, you know, we always think we have these needs, then you got to be careful because Krishna can take that away. So you got to know, okay, am I ready for Krishna to take that away? So just be grateful for what you can do and that you have that beautiful intention of wanting to love and serve him. He sees that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pry. Where are you that you can't serve your deities the way that you want to serve them?
Oh, I'm in Texas now.
You're in Texas. You're traveling around. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm living with my family, which they are Muslims, and you know, they are not. So even my japa bag, always I have to make sure I lock it in my bag after chanting, because my niece may come and take it and something like that, and so that is the issue. So, but always I'm mixing my altar, always, because it's it's, you know, in early stages that become part of you, offering the flowers in the morning and the hot milk and the water and everything. And this few 2 months is always like I'm mixing something so much. Yeah.
Yes, so Krishna has increased. So be grateful for your family. They're helping you to increase your desire to serve Krishna. This is your niece?
Yes, always she comes.
Wonderful. So much love, so much affection. So Krishna is sending you, you know, so much. Hare Bol. Hare Bol.
Because of them, always I have to lock my japa, because he might come here and take it. So
wow, maybe. I don't know what your family situation is like. However, maybe you can teach her a little bit about what the japa is for. Yeah, it's just like the beads of chanting for.
Actually, my sister, she don't have issue, because I speak more to her about Krishna consciousness a lot, and she don't have the issue, but you know, her husband is she don't have you know, you don't want to hear anything apart from Islam. So
yes,
but it's fine. I know Krishna will change the situation. So
yes. And take shelter of devotees that, you know, like Salika Prabhu, he comes from a Muslim background. He can help you. Take shelter of each other. He can teach, he can give you some little tips of what you can do
Yes.
to make it easier, to make the journey easier, you know?
Yes.
So please connect with him. Yeah.
Yes, I
That would
will.
be- And thank you, Prabhu. I'm
Thank you
guessing
very
you're,
much, Madam Vrajalila. It's been 1 hour, 42
Yes.
minutes. Yeah, so thank you so much for giving us your time. And
Hare
I
Krishna.
think it is on this note, I will request all of the devotees to please join me in loudly chanting the powerful Hare Krishna mantra to appreciate Mother for this beautiful class, and then Sangha with us. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare
Hare Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Rama,
Ram,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Kalpataru vyasya kripa
Bhakta
sindhuvya
Kalpataru
sundasya
Vyasa
patitanam pava
Kripa Sundari Vacha Patitanam Pavino Vishnu Namo Namaha.
Anata Kuti Vaishnava Vinde ki jai.
Jai.
Grace.
oh, thank you,
Mataji ki
devotees.
jai.
Thank you.